back to the Return of the Tassel Show. My name is Stephen Ampersand. I'm your host, and as always, we're here to help you and people you love get to and through college, university, or trade schools, whether they're on time, with minimum to no debt. Today is our finale. It is number 5 of 5 in our 5-part series on the college completion crisis. And we're going to look at a video. It's about 18 minutes long. So I'm going to cut with much of the fanfare and jump right in because I think it's a really good wrap up to the series. And so the title, again, this comes from AEI, and the title is Elevating College Completion. And this is an interview with Lene Erickson Hatowski. And this is just her viewpoint. And so without further ado, I'm going to jump right on in here, and we're going to cut to camera number 2.
State policymakers have to have the workforce for the businesses that are there, and they know that if they're not providing a workforce that's well educated, that has the credentials they need, then businesses are going to go elsewhere.
Lene, good to have you here. You're the Vice President for Social Policy and Politics at Third Way.
That's right.
And more importantly, at least at this moment, you are in the middle of this partnership with us around this effort at elevating college completion.
That's right. It's our first time working together on something education related.
So let's talk about elevating college completion.
Mm-hmm.
What the heck do we mean? What is college completion?
Well, I think when you ask most people what the problems are in our higher education system, they mostly talk about it being expensive. They say college costs have gone up and it isn't sustainable for middle-class family to pay those costs. But what people don't talk about is actually we have a different problem within our higher ed system, which is there's lots of people starting college and then not completing that degree.
Also
so they might take out the loans,
but they're not mutually exclusive.
Spend the time that they have invested to get partially through that degree and never walk out with anything. It makes them unable to pay back those loans and not really getting any of the benefits of higher education in the first place.
Now, you and I wrote a piece for The Hill talking about the college dropout problems.
Mm-hmm.
How big a problem is this?
Well, at four-year universities, it's about 1 in 2 that drop out once they've started. So it's basically a coin flip to see whether or not you're going to succeed once you enroll.
Right.
It's even worse at 2-year colleges, even though you might think it would be better since it takes less time to complete. But it's about 38% at 2-year colleges that actually go on to complete their degree. And that is a huge drag on the economy. There's some estimates that it's about...
All right, I don't want to do a lot of this because it's a long video, but I need to stop the show there because, again, the community college gets a bad rap on this because they have to calculate as part of their non-completers the students that transfer to 4-year schools. See, what would be more reasonable is if those transfer students, the ones that leave before they finish the degree, counted as completers, or at the very least didn't count against them as non-completers, since they're not leaving college, they're leaving the community college to go to the 4-year. And remember, many 4-year schools will waitlist students saying that they don't quite measure up and send them down, if you will, to a community college to demonstrate they have college readiness and then accept them after they've done a semester. So that number is misleading, and I want to make sure that I emphasize that because people say things like this, but they don't really provide the necessary context to know that that number is really false and deflated for the community college. A great resource is the Voluntary Framework for Accountability, the VFA. You can go online and look at any community college's statistics based on true numbers, like including the people who transfer and that kind of thing. That's the Voluntary Framework for Accountability. It's a great place to go look so you can see real, more accurate graduation rates, persistence and retention rates, etc. All right, back in.
$500 billion drag on our economy, and it also really is a problem for those students that are starting, wasting that time and money, and then walking out with nothing.
And for the taxpayers who are lending them money.
That's right.
But now the crotchety grandfather in me immediately listens to us talking about this and says, "Well, wait a minute. Are we saying that everybody who walks in the door of a college should get a diploma?
Practically.
Yeah, and I think that especially in higher education, that's a lot of people's reaction is maybe that person shouldn't have completed, or maybe it was the student's fault that they failed out. We do a lot of public opinion research on this, and people always say, well, in K-12, if someone fails, it's probably the teacher's fault or the school's fault. But in higher education, they blame it on the student. They say, well, that person probably drank too much or went to too many frat parties and decided to fail out.
I think a lot of those folks work as RAs.
That might have been their experience of higher education. But I think when we look at universities that have, or community colleges or any institution that has 1 in 10 students graduating, you realize that's really a more systematic problem than a particular student. And we're still, even if there's a 1 in 10 completion rate, encouraging people to take out loans to go to those schools. And we're giving federal taxpayer dollars and Pell dollars to those schools. And we just don't think that that's a particularly good use of money. In the K-12 space, we ask for a lot for the federal money that we give out. And you might say way too much for the federal money that we give out. But in higher ed, we say, here's a big check. And then we don't really ask for any results in return.
Right.
And bringing in kind of this K-12 piece.
Accountability.
Right? We've seen version of this movie before. We were worried that schools weren't doing right by kids back in 2001. Congress passed the No Child Left Behind Act. There's been a lot of concern in the years since that schools became too focused on the things that were being measured, reading and math, at the expense of other stuff. So if we start talking about elevating college completion, how do we make sure that we're not talking about this in a way that encourages colleges to just hand out diplomas like Pez dispensers?
Yeah, I'm really excited about the 5 academics that we had right on this topic, because I think each of them tackled that in kind of a nuanced way and added a different component to it. But really, it means that you can't just focus on completion. You can't just focus on it getting a degree. You also need to figure out what is the value of that degree. And so a lot of folks would use post-enrollment earnings as one metric that you should take a look at. If you're graduating and then not able to earn more than, say, an average high school graduate, then it's probably not a very good degree. People also look at your ability to repay the loans, because that's the risk to the taxpayer, is that we're giving you loans and you're not able to pay it back. And it also means you probably haven't found a good job and had the payoff you hoped if you can't pay back those loans. So having some kind of a multiple outcomes focus, I think is really important here, because we don't want to create, especially with such a huge amount of federal dollars, $130 billion going to higher ed every year. It's a huge cudgel that if we make it too simplified in terms of what we're asking schools to do, they're going to react in ways that we don't really want them to.
I mean, I think that's, in our letter prefacing each of these papers, I think we try to take pains to say, look, we're not saying that 100% of people who start college should finish.
Right.
I don't know that it's even 70 or 80%, but in a lot of these places, it's probably substantially higher than it is today.
Right. Well, all right.
One of the things these academics
Okay, so by that logic, let me here, I got to come out for this. By that logic, so do we feel the same way about K-12 education? In other words, are we okay with not 100% of people graduating 12th grade? Do we we know it, not everybody does, but do we not desire that everybody would finish? So, and K-12 is taxpayer funded entirely for the most part, with the exception of private schools that folks can self-select to. And, there are always exceptions that are outside the bell. Here's the bell. There's exceptions out here. Most things are in here. Okay. Right. So I have a problem with us turning to college university and saying, well, we don't really expect everybody to graduate, or, we don't know how much it should be. Like, are we in trouble are we in danger of just handing out diplomas? Understand what he's saying here. He's saying that, part of what makes a college degree special, what makes a college degree help you to stand out, is the fact that not everybody can finish. That is a flawed, faulty, broken model. And also, there is some truth to that. Because, as I've referenced before, if you've ever seen the movie The Incredibles, the first one, when the villain in that one, Buddy, who became Syndrome, when he's going on one of his several monologues and talking about how he's going to destroy all the supers and he's going to use his gadgets and technology that has made him de facto super to do so. And after he's had his fun, he'll sell all his stuff, be very, very rich, and then everybody will be super. And then he says this. He says, and when everyone is super, no one is. You see, there's a powerful lesson here. And because this has got the potential to go long, I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of this, because there's another 15 minutes of this. I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of this in the description. You just click on the link and watch the rest of this video. I think it's going to be important that you do so. But suffice it to say, part of the reason why getting a 4-year degree, master's degree, and even a terminal degree differentiates you in the workforce is because it's very difficult for people to do it. We know nationally 41% of people will get their bachelor's degree who attempt it. We haven't looked at the statistics on the master's or the doctorate degree. So the people who achieve these things are worthy of honor and respect because they've defied the odds. And so, with all due respect, we need to celebrate the people who've done that. And also, for the rest of us, we need to look at the other side of that coin and say, 41% is like less than a coin flip in my favor. So I better make sure I make a good choice about where I go to college if I decide to do so, because I need to do whatever I can to increase my chances of successful completion. We need to look at the reality of a capitalistic society that says, to the victor goes the spoils. Supply and demand. If everybody gets a doctorate degree, then nobody really has one. Do you see that? Does that make sense? You see that. In other words, not everyone can get the credentials, because getting the credentials is what differentiates you from the people who don't have it. It's the classic, the haves and the have-nots. So, like I've said on several other broadcasts, colleges want you to succeed because it makes them look good when you do. They want you to complete, but not really, because they're going to get paid whether you complete or not. Their credential is going to have more weight and be more valuable if fewer people can get it. That's what makes it valuable or adds value to it, right? So you have to understand this as an educated and informed consumer of the product that is higher education and or the trades, so that you can differentiate yourself and make yourself among the 41% who actually do complete. And so, in other words, it's like 60%, 59% who don't. Okay. So that's important. That's important. So why do we do this? We do this because we know that without the guidance, support, encouragement, coaching that we used to expect from our advising suites in the colleges and universities, that we now know is increasingly difficult to get because of the insane advisor to advisee ratio loads that they have. You need to be able to take advantage of something like Turn the Tassel Consulting Group. So if you haven't done so already, schedule your free consultation. 484-574-1866 is the number you can text us at, or you can email us at turningtassel@gmail.com. Subject line, I need a plan. We will reach out to you. We'll schedule a free consultation. We'll help you to see what is the best option for you. And then, should you choose to move forward, we will walk with you through the process so that you or the people you love can get to and through college, university, or the trade schools earlier on time with minimum to no debt. I'm Stephen Ampersand. This is Turn the Tassel.